Hello, citizens of YouTube. This is the Geeky Nerd here, and today we're going to be talking about the CZ999 made by Zastava, otherwise known as the CZ EZ9, and my Sig P226 Mark 25, and the general differences and kind of overview of these pistols. So before I begin, I'd like to send a big thank you out to everyone who has liked, commented, and or subscribed on the previous videos. I always appreciate it and always enjoy talking to you guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please consider liking, commenting, and or subscribing if you enjoy the type of content we have here. So, with the PR out of the way, let's get into it. So, one of my first ever videos I made was regarding the CZ999, which this is not a Czechoslovakia CZ, as we all know, like the pistol company. This is the Zastava CZ999, otherwise known as the EZ9. Really depends on which variation you go with. They are essentially the same base pistol, though. And with that video, I was getting a lot of comments saying, "Oh, it's just a P226 knockoff, a clone, yada yada yada, so on and so forth. Save the money to get the more upgraded version, and so on and so forth." You guys get the picture. And on the opposite side, people saying that's the best pistol ever. How'd you get it? It's not really prevalent over here in the States, and a lot of those viewers are coming based on YouTube analytics from different countries: Poland, Serbia, obviously, Russian Federation, so on and so forth. And it's really polarizing between the two, and there definitely is a similarity between the two, but there also are quite a few differences between them. Now, I have when I did the review on the CZ, which I'll just call this the EZ9, just to keep it easy and not to have to say so many more words. But for this EZ9, there is a difference, and but this was like I said, one of my first YouTube videos. I had this before I had this, but the biggest distinction is that I still really like this. And for the price difference, I'm going to get into kind of maybe why it might be right for you, maybe why it might not be. And also, I know this is not a perfect apples to apples comparison. This is more of a apples to oranges. The only similarity being they both are fruit that grow in trees. With the Mark 25, there are mainly two variations that I'm kind of excluding that are specific to the Mark 25. That is, of course, the barrel, which this is an aftermarket barrel, but the standard one is a chrome-lined barrel. Different nitride finish. Same thing for the exterior finish is more saltwater resistant. So whenever I'm comparing these two, look at this, guys, as just a P226. Forget the little anchor there, okay? So we're going to get into it now. First thing as well, safety check, nothing there, which I always do for every video, but besides I'm in a secure area, it's just me. So, first thing between them, let's just go with size. So you can see here how they kind of stack up. We'll go from the top. So you can see the top of the Sig is more of a rounded profile. That's a bit harder to machine, to where this has more of a flat profile up here and a more of a rounded back here. Now, you can really see the similarities in the rear, but in the front you can see that they did that to save cost a bit, which makes sense because machining a perfectly rounded edge and the finishing time takes a lot more. Now, looking up top as well, you can see this has a loaded chamber indicator, to where on the Sig, it's more of just a tactile feel on the ejector. This has an internal ejector, so another difference between there. If I have to choose between the two, I actually kind of like this. I never really felt like up on the side of my pistol, and I prefer an internal ejector. That's just me. It's just really cool when you do have a round in there, you can actually really feel it, and it protrudes out slightly. Looking at the sights, you can definitely see some similarities there. Now, these are our Sig Light night sights, and these are just standard 3 dots, but the profile is essentially the same. Definitely nicer on the Sig. And before I go any more further, I will say the general theme of this entire comparison is the Sig is going to be better. That's just the way it is. You get what you pay for, but is it worth what you pay for? And that's kind of how you're going to see this video shake out. Also, before I keep going any further, again, I know I'm a bit going around the horn here, but just how my videos are, just how I think, and I talk like a normal person. I don't talk like I'm talking at you. I'm talking with you guys. We're just sitting around the campfire BSing around here. That's how we do it, the Geeky Nerd. But the three main things that I would say that are going to decide whether you pick one or the other, it's going to be cost, of course, the fit and finish, how much is how it looks and how it feels to you worth it. And 3, the combat experience, the history, the track record of each pistol. If you throw all 3 of those out the window, both these guns work 100% of the time. Both these guns will shoot, both these guns will run, and both of these guns will do exactly the same function with very similar ergonomics. So, with that out the way, let's get back into it here. So, looking at the rear here, you can see the beaver tail is a bit chunkier, a bit fatter on the Sig. It's a bit more thinner profile and a bit more extended on the Zastava. So, when kind of holding the gun, I'd say between the two, they feel very similar. Now, you can see also that this the Sig has a polymer palm swell, and on the frame to where this is actually machined out. So you might actually prefer that. This definitely has more grip between them, and just kind of like indexing on the gun. But as far as comfort wise, I kind of like the Zastava just a bit more. I feel like that extended beaver tail just gives a little bit more, gives you a bit more higher purchase on the gun, and that checkering just kind of feels nice on your hand. Not that there's anything wrong with this, but you can see there is a seam, and while you really can't feel it, it's still there, and you can feel it, but you don't really feel it in operation, if you know what I mean. So that's pretty much between two. Of course, the grips, Sig wins, hands down. The grips on here are a plastic. They are a very tough plastic. They're not a Glockish plastic. I would compare it to a FN plastic. So you guys that have multiple guns, you'll know what I'm talking about. Looking down here, we have the magazine release. Now, one interesting thing about the magazine release, it is ambidextrous on the Zastava. It is not on the Sig. Also, one thing, I don't know if you can see it, but when you push this, I don't know if it'll show up on camera. You see it actually kind of rotates a little bit. So you actually you feel it actually twist underneath your thumb, which I always just thought was very interesting. But like I said, ambidextrous, can release it from both sides. Now, the Sig is a bit easier to reach with your thumb. My thumb kind of just indexes right there. Comes right out. But both magazines do come out fine. I do have to press significantly more with the Zastava, but it still gets the job done. Now, for those of you guys that are wondering between the two, and you know what? This is a Decocker magazine, I know, but they are exactly the same as the Sig mags. So this is just 18 rounder. So don't criticize me and say, oh, the original Sig mag would have worked between the two. Trust me, it won't. An important reason why. So for those of you guys that are wondering, magazine, it will eventually slide into the gun. You'd have to push the magazine release, but it will never, it will never actually engage. Whether or not it will feed, I'm going to say that if it looked down inside the chamber, that it would feed, but you would have to kind of hold the base plate on. You have to pull like that, like Grand Thumb did with the with that Sig video. You guys know the video I'm talking about. And in the Zastava, it's even worse. It actually doesn't even slide in there. So same kind of principle. If you held it back, it may function. I mean, the slide does. It does rotate. It does even lock back, which is very interesting, and it will drop. So it would in a pinch. I'm not saying do it. The reason for that, of course, is because of how it actually gets caught in the gun. The Sig has more of a rounded kind of in the front, and the Zastava has just a little pinhole in the front. So that's the general reason between those two. Moving on down. We can, you can see that they have, on the trigger guards, it is a bit more pronounced on the Sig. Obviously, Sig is going to have a bit more of a durability factor to them, a bit more of a track proven record, like I was saying, if it's a deciding factor for you. Takedown levers are significantly different, but they are similar. And another thing, kind of going off a tangent here real quick, a big thing I would say between these two pistols is the Zastava is more of a homage. So you have clones, which are basically trying to copy the greats, and a homage is kind of taking inspiration from the greats and making it its own. Very similar to how like the Rolex Submariner and like the Invictus are. You can get a Rolex, you're going to get your money with a Rolex, but if you want the style, fit, function, and somewhat of a finish, the Invicta is going to do just pretty much the same thing for you. And this is really more of a homage, not a clone, especially with those like little features that I'm saying, like internal ejector, external, so on and so forth. Speaking of ejectors and slides, just drop the magazine. It's going to be easier to show. Actually, we'll just put the magazines over here. Magazine quality-wise, SIGs do have a nicer finish. Zastava is a bit more rough. These are harder to find as well, so take that for what you will. But how you actually actuate the slide and slide release / slide catch and the decocker. So on the Zastava, I like this system a lot better. Is the decocker is also the slide release, and it functions very well. You know, you just push up to lock the slide, you push down to unlock it. Now, if you push down, you can't keep pushing and then decock the gun. So you can't, you know, it just did that kind of as a fluke, but it's not really made to do that. You have to kind of let go a little bit and then it'll go. So that's essentially the function. Now, the decocker on this, compared to the SIG especially, where the SIG, when you push down, it basically, you can keep your thumb down. This kind of really forces your thumb back up. So that's one thing to consider. On the SIG, of course, you have your separate. The reason why I'm saying I like the Zastava better is sometimes I'll fumble with these, and especially with just having manual arms, I will end up pushing up on the decocker as opposed to pushing up on the slide release. Now, it is I'm not going to say it's easier because they're both fairly easy to actuate. This has a lot more surface area, but this being a bit higher up has a bit more defined as far as pushing it down. Now, the decocker, like I was saying, it's less springy than this. Is kind of more locked in. But this, once you push down, you see you can hold it there, and then it gently releases. So a bit more refined in that aspect. Looking at the triggers, the SIG is a much beefier trigger, a lot fatter. It fills your finger a lot more, especially when you are firing, to where the Zastava is a lot finer, and it has serrations on the front, to where the SIG does not. As far as feel between the two, again, I'm going to give a little bit of the edge to the Zastava. I prefer a thinner trigger. That is just me. SIG works perfectly fine. Definitely have a lot of meat to get a purchase on there, but just that finite trigger, I feel like it has a bit more control. Of course, the Zastava does not have a rail. SIG does. If that's important to you, so be it. The fit and finish, again, I'm going to kind of exclude those. I'm not going to exclude them. Exclude the main differences between the Mark 25, like I said, but the Sig P226 is going to win with finish. Reason for that is this is a chromed slide, stainless steel barrel, but the frame is the black poly coat. So if you ever held an AK before, you know the kind of fish I'm talking about. It's more of like a spray paint. It's not actual like anodizing or finishing or Cerakoting. Excuse me, not the coof. It is prone to wearing off, and if you do get any kind of detergents or heavy paint thinners, paint removers, anything like that, it will start coming off. When I tried to do the color filling here with the non-acetone, it started stripping this off. I completely didn't even think of that as a consideration, but it did. On the SIG, it is hard coat anodized and nitrided and all that fun stuff. So this finish is vastly superior to this. This is actually a finish. This is more of just the paint. So that's another difference. And again, you have to look at this through the eyes of these. Both guns are both going to work, except for those three main things that I talked about. And since we've essentially covered the entirety of the guns, except the front serrations, these have vertical, these have horizontal. Horizontal obviously make more sense because this kind of slips around, but again, feels nice. Looking at the bottoms real quick. Can see there are definitely aesthetics between the two. There's a lot finer serrations on the front of the trigger guard on the SIG that requires a lot more finer machining as opposed to the rough marks. Opposite side, you know, you can see the it's a different class of gun, or different style, I should say. It's in the same class. Before I get to the internals, though, there's three main things that I was saying. So first is going to be price. For the SIG, you're going to be looking about at the current time of the uploading of this video with market demand. you're going to be looking at, give or take, well, the Mark 25, you're going to look at the $1,200. Fair price is about $1,900, give or take. But the Sig P226 in particular, which would be more of a direct comparison between these two, about $800, $900 still. So that's, a good chunk of change. Zastava picked this up for $400 even. Now, with that being said, these are a lot harder to find. They're a bit more collectible in essence, I guess you would say. That's kind of why I liked them, just because it was a gun that you don't see that often, and it just has a good, interesting story behind it. So if you can find this, and they're kind of hard, I got mine in Classic Firearms a couple years ago, then you're looking at 400 versus, we'll just say $800 to make it an even Steven comparison. So is the Sig worth double Zastava? Well, if these next two things are important to you, then yes. The fit and finish. So with Zastava, you have very minimal slide travel side to side on the rails, and you have pretty much the same amount on the Sig. So not too crazy concerning there. The finishes are obviously different. The fit and feel, you can see machining marks that are on the slide and generally around the gun, to where on the Sig you're not going to have that. It's more finely finished, more finely tuned, especially with that rounded top. There is a lot more of a attention, care to detail between the two. And finally, track record. Sig was used by the Navy SEALs, P226 in particular, the Mark 25 here. So it has that going for it. It's used by Secret Service, by the Air Marshals, and by quite a few government agencies, because it is a good gun, and it does definitely have a proven track record and is hella reliable. The CZ, though, has not been adopted by any U.S. agencies, but it has been adopted by a few different international ones. Some Serbian police carry this. Some Ukrainian police carry this. This is more of an Eastern Bloc type gun, if I was to say anything. So where you're going to find someone being issued a standard Zastava AK or an Arsenal AK or like a Saiga AK, like if you're getting an AK, you're could possibly be getting one of these as well. Now, between the two, Sig's going to win hands down. It's more proven, it's more known, it's just more defined. But there are people, especially in the comments, who I was talking to on that video way back when, who said that they were issued this gun and it is bulletproof reliable. And on my first video, like I said, this is the AK of guns. It is dirt simple. It has looser tolerances to allow it to function even in adverse conditions. And it's just built solid. It's built a bit thicker. I'm not gonna say thicker. It's just built. She built different compared between the two. So that's kind of just what makes it so unique. It's a way to show firearms manufacturers kind of being innovative in their own ways. And if those three things, the fit, finish, the price, and the track record, are important to you, and those things you value over just function, Sig's all the way. But if you don't really care about those and you just want the gun to work and you want the general aesthetics, the feel, CZ999 EZ9 is going to be perfect for you. So final part here, takedown, you lock it down. Now the takedown is a bit more tricky on the Zastava. I do kind of have to hold the gun and do some weird manipulations in order to get it to work, because it's just a little bit of a different gun. On the Sig though, bread and butter simple, that actually stays down. So they both have full rails, which is nice. Internals, you can see damn close between the two. Hammers, I don't think I covered those. A little bit different. It's I prefer the hammer on the Sig a bit more. This flat hammer kind of just you end up slipping off, but very, very close internals between the two. No, they will not fit on the slides. Trust me, I tried it just for giggles. It got stuck. It got hairy. Looking inside, you can't see those machining marks that I'm talking about, so you can see a little bit rougher on the interior of the CZ999 EZ9, and definitely finer on the Sig. Now, interestingly enough, I don't know. I'm just a gun guy in his basement, just making YouTube videos here, just for everyone. So I'm not an expert, but you tell me in the comments, does the Sig P226 have a different recoil spring? I don't think it does, but if it does, let me know. But between these two, you can see they do have that braided wire recoil spring, which is definitely a bit more sturdy in my opinion, but size-wise, the Mark 25 is going to be a bit bigger. And you can see between the two, the captive area up top is a bit more. And yeah, they pretty much go around to bound the bend, kind of similar, same ways. Now the barrels, of course, will not fit as well because you can see between the two, they have different geometry, so don't try it. I really wish these were captured, but I understand why they're not. Do they need to be captured? No, but it'd still be a nice to have, not a need to have. So there's the general slides, as you can see. And reassembly on the CZ9, it's a bit more complicated because you have to kind of push this out the way in order to get it to fit. And then it just locks back auto-magically, so you don't have to actually push the lever down. We use the Decocker because why not? And on the Sig, again, it just fits on those rails a lot better, but you do have to flip the lever around. So guys, I know this has been kind of a long video, but if you stuck around to this end, thank you. I appreciate it much. I hope I kind of gave my little special insight in between the Sig P226, in particular the Mark 25, and the Zastava CZ999/EZ9, depending on where you live. Your market may vary. Yeah, I hope, again, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please consider liking, commenting, and or subscribing. And with that, I'll catch you guys next time. Hope everyone is having a wonderful, awesome, fantastic day.